In The Lord of the Rings, there is always friction between Legolas and Gimli because there is a deep divide there between the Elves and the Dwarves. They made the doors to Moria together. The Dwarves allowed Elves to pass through their underground home of Moria to get to Lothlorien. So what changed? What caused such a rupture? Friends, let's find out. Our tale begins with Elu Thingol, king of Doriath. His daughter, Luthien, fell in love with a human man, Beren, and not wanting the union to doom his daughter to a mortal life, Thingol set an impossible bride price of one of the Silmarils. The problem was, all three were held in the crown of the Dark Lord Morgoth. Now the Silmarils are not any ordinary gems. In their hearts burns some of the light from the two trees that lit the sky in the land of the gods. Beren and Luthien were able to return with the gem and then allowed to wed. Now he had the gem. Thingol's thoughts turned unceasingly to the jewel and became bound to it. He was minded now to bear it with him, always, waking and sleeping. Later, Hurin, a human warrior, brought the treasures of Nargothrond, an elven underground fortress, to Doriath, because Nargothrond had been sacked by a dragon and his orcs. Thingol received this treasure and summoned the dwarves of Belagos to him. The elven king had been the first to contact and form an alliance with them, and they had also helped build his kingdom, and Thingol asked them to work the treasures into jewellery. The finest of these pieces was the Norglamir, a necklace. Thingol then asked the dwarves of Nogrod, sister realm to Belagos, to set the Silmaril into the necklace, which they did, and its beauty was very great, for now the countless jewels of the Norglamir did reflect and cast abroad in marvellous hues the light of the Silmaril. Seeing it, and likely filled with jealousy, which was in their nature, the dwarves refused to give it to Thingol when he asked for it to be placed around his neck. It was an heirloom for them, stolen from Nargothrond by a human. Thingol saw through their deception to their true hearts, and that they desired the Silmaril. Thingol told the dwarves they were inferior and did not deserve it, whereas he did. He told them to leave his realm forever. The dwarves, with the desire for the necklace at the front of their minds, raged and attacked. They fought, and Thingol was killed in his own kingdom. Perhaps with their close alliance till this point, he had assumed they didn't need any guards around him. The dwarves also will have been well armed for protection on their journey to Thingol. They came now in great companies, well armed for their protection. The dwarves took the Silmaril and the necklace, but were driven from the fortress. The entire city of Doriath, seat of Thingol, was alerted by his death, and with their wrath driving them, the elves pursued the dwarves, killing them until only two escaped. The two that escaped spun a tale to their fellow dwarves and accused Thingol of ordering the execution of their fellows, as he hoped to cheat them out of their reward. Gold, I assume. The Nogrod dwarves, hearing this, wanted to strike back. They tried to get help from the dwarves of Belagos to aid them, but were turned down, and Nogrod also ignored Belagos' counsel to dissuade from their attack. And so the dwarven host struck out at the elven realm. Melian, Thingol's wife, was filled with grief. As a Maiar, a spirit serving the gods, she had foreseen Doriath's doom. She withdrew her protection from Doriath, which was the girdle of Melian, a fence of enchantment. The fighting was fierce, and many died on both sides, but the dwarves emerged victorious, and they plundered and destroyed as they will, with no resistance opposing them. Melian instructed Mablung, a captain in Doriath, to contact Beren, who was at Tol Galen, a green island, and pass the Silmaril on to him. and she then returned to Valinor, realm of the gods, in grief. And it is that choice that leaves Doriath vulnerable to the dwarves' attack. The resistance given by elven captains and sentinels was no match for the dwarves. They may have been caught by surprise, not knowing about the lack of the girdle. The dwarves took few losses and marched over the bridge Menegroth and entered the caves, starting the battle of the 1,000 caves. They found the treasury and slew the captain Mablung, who'd had no time to take the treasure and escape, as he had been instructed, and the dwarves took both the necklace and the gem. The dwarves left Doriath in ruins, but were ready to celebrate what they had taken. Their mood did not last long. An army, headed by Beren and his son Dior of Green Elves, came. A message must have been passed to them via the Elves of Doriath. The dwarves were weighed down heavily with loot, and were slow to move and too greedy to give up the treasure. They may also have been tired from celebrating and drunk. Suddenly, all the woods were filled with the sound of elven horns and shafts sped upon them from every side. The dwarves were decimated, and the few left broke and fled into the forest where Ents finished them. Beren slew the Lord of Nogrod, and wrestled from him the necklace of the dwarves. So, Beren had recovered the Silmaril and the Norglemir that his father-in-law had lost when he had succumbed to their lure. But the friendship between the elves and the dwarves was broken over it. They had fallen to the Silmaril, and the blood now spilled was for its sake. Dior, Beren's son, eventually returned to Doriath to lead the survivors of the elves, and Dior set himself to raise anew the glory of the kingdom of Doriath. Now I turn this over to you. What do you think to this tale of the fallen elven king? Would you prefer the Silmaril or the necklace? Have you ever stolen treasure from an elven kingdom? Comment down below.